Badlands is a national park located in the southwestern part of South Dakota in the USA. But this series is not about it. Badlands can be found almost all over the world. These are vast, inhospitable wastelands where survival requires a lot of self-denial and good preparation. And that's no guarantee of success. In order for the area to be brought under the book definition of badlands, it should have distinctive topography. It is mostly upland, where soft sedimentary rocks and clay-rich soils have been extensively eroded by wind and water. This results in the formation of a characteristic relief in the form of ravines, inselbergs, plateaus, spears, and gullies. The badlands are formed by a combination of an impermeable but easily eroding ground surface, sparse vegetation, and infrequent by abundant rainfall. Rare torrential rains lead to severe erosion delamination. Where sudden rainfall cannot penetrate the impervious clays, it is channeled into a very dense system of streams that cause constant erosion of ever-enlarging and interconnecting gullies. Erosion is also aggravated by falling raindrops, which remove the soft deposits. The term is said to come from French fur traders that called the area around the source of the wide river Les Mauvaises Terres à Traverser, which should be translated as bad lands to cross. The Lakota Indians also called such places Makosika, which meant bad lands too. Not all the areas that I will present are an example of the book's definition of badlands, but all of them, without exception, have one common denominator. Their harshness, inaccessibility, majesty, and inhospitality have a stunning force of attraction. Perfect beauty and the awe emanating from them are a mixture in which brutality of nature instills a calmness in us. It passes all understanding. Absorbing it with all your senses makes you sink into yourself, and time stops for this short moment. I invite you to join me on a journey to Badlands. In 2019, during a business trip to Las Vegas, I decided to take the opportunity to experience the harshness and beauty of the badlands that surround this cradle of gambling. Already in 2006, I managed to ride a rented motorcycle from Salt Lake City to Las Vegas in 2 days, touching Monument Valley and the Grand Canyon, losing a wallet with documents, money and credit cards along the way and finding it an hour later on the side of the road. However, it was a mini trip, almost all the time in the saddle, so this time I wanted to see more and in less hurry. Looking at the route in retrospect, I can say that it was also a good race. But this is often the case when you fly to the other end of the world and you want to make the most of your time. And since overlanding is my passion, absorbing the next miles was not a big problem. On the 1-hour drive from Las Vegas, we venture into a completely different world. A world that has hardly changed in the last millennia, as evidenced by the still visible artifacts left by Native Americans carved into the desert's varnish, which is a mixture of iron and manganese, which leached from the rocks and evaporated over millennia. The red sandstone formations on both sides of the gorge seem to be on fire and seem utterly inhospitable, but even here, life can be encountered. It took a long time to create this amazing red sandstone. The process began some 150 million years ago in the Jurassic Age, when the ocean covering the area retreated and disappeared. The red sands deposited and compacted into sandstone, and the sea became a plain. Geological faults and erosion contorted the landscape to what it is today. Valley of Fire is the oldest and largest state park in Nevada, created in 1934. It is located 80 kilometers northeast of Las Vegas and covers an area of 141 square kilometers. As far as the eye can see, there is nothing around. Huge space, desert, emptiness. only in the distance there are high mountain peaks looming somewhere on the horizon. It's the beginning of April. It's not hot, but it's warm, even very warm. And the desert breeze lashes us with its warm gusts over our sun-hungry bodies. The nearby rock formations radiate the absorbed heat, and we enjoy it and admire the views. Those less than 3 hours we gave ourselves to take a look at the park, because it's hard to call it sightseeing, were definitely too short to see all the attractions this place has to offer. But we treated it as an appetizer, something that was supposed to give us a taste of this trip to another planet and prepare us for what lays ahead. This place is really close to Las Vegas, and it's definitely easier to come back here again to experience it more than to places that were waiting on our list. Therefore, shortly after 4 p.m., we continued our journey. Nevada State Road 169 to the I-15 highway, and then I-15 towards St. George. We wanted to drive the Mount Carmel Road that same day, so we took exit 16 on IS-9 and stayed overnight at the Galaxy of Hatch, a motorcycle model and diner between Bryce National Park and Zion. The morning greeted us with sunny but frosty weather. The patches of snow that covered the slopes in the distance and lay here and there on the nearby hills seemed completely unrealistic compared to the temperatures we experienced as recently as yesterday. The warm shades of orange outside the window also gave the impression that it was warm outside, but no, this morning was definitely not warm. From the west, the UT-12 road to Bryce National Park runs through Red Canyon. A foretaste of what you can experience later in Bryce, but on a smaller scale. Often tourists rushing to Bryce skip this place, which is why it is mostly empty and quiet. This place is a relatively shallow valley that is part of the Ponsogen Plateau. It is surrounded by heavily exposed red-orange sandstones called the Claron Formation. They stretch along UT-12 for about 4 miles and then gradually disappear along with the road, reaching flat, grassy space at the top of the hill. In addition to this cluster, the formations also stretch for several miles to the north, creating 2 more large canyons, Losey Canyon and Casto Canyon. Everything is within the Dixie National Forest. Red Canyon appears quite unexpectedly on the edge of the plateau called Sunset Cliffs. If you ever played on the beach and made towers by pouring wet sand from a bucket so that it formed a cone, this is what those creations of nature looks like. Only they have an intense orange color and on top greenish caps. 2 definitely outstanding formations are called hoodoos. If you would like to see them up close, you can go for a walk on the one of the several hiking trails marked out in the Red Canyon. More precisely, the Pink Ledges Trail. The others are Tunnel Trail and Bird's Eye Trail. In my opinion, this place is highly underrated, because you can commune with the formations directly and really experience them up close. But we didn't know it then, and so we continued our journey to Bryce, passing too short by charming tunnels carved in the sandstone on the way. After about 10 miles, we found ourselves in Bryce. It is said to be the coldest and windiest park. The snow lying around seemed to confirm this, and our clothes were nothing like the clothes we had worn only a dozen or so hours earlier in the Valley of Fire. But it was such weather that contributed to the creation of this amazing place. Bryce is not a real canyon because there is no river running through it. The basin in the shape of an amphitheater was created as a result of erosion processes, both thermal and chemical. For over 200 days a year, the park has both negative and positive temperatures during 24 hours period. During the day, the water flows into small rock crevices, and at night it freezes, increasing its volume by about 9%. This cycle of freezes and thaws cracks the rocks apart. What's more, rainwater is acidic, which additionally dissolves limestone rocks. The formations in the park are diverse, but the most popular are rock spears called hoodoos. They are built of limestone and are from 1.5 to 45 meters high. There are also numerous narrow and deep rock cracks called slot canyons, ranging from 100 to 300 meters in length and 30 to 60 meters in depth. An interesting fact is that the name of the place comes from the Scottish settler Ebenezer Bryce, who came there in 1875. He had lived there for only 5 years, but during that time he built an irrigation canal several kilometers long and a road to plateau that gave him better access to firewood and timber. Local people started calling it Brice's Canyon, which was later formalized into Brice Canyon. If you have more time, it's definitely worth immersing yourself in one of the numerous hiking trails crossing the canyon. If not, admiring it from one of the many viewpoints will also provide you with unforgettable emotions. The next kilometers are the contrast between our admiration for the surrounding and the signs of the inexorably passing time. Those elements in form of dead animals or the graveyard of classics made up this specific atmosphere that we absorb with every inch of our bodies. We were heading to Mexican Head, where we had planned an overnight stay before heading to Monument Valley. Had almost 300 miles to cover, which was around 6 hours of continuous driving, but of course, between Teesdale and Torrey, on the UT24 road, we stopped again for a while when we encountered a charming cottage with an interesting background. The place seemed abandoned, but dogs could be heard barking in the yard, so someone must have been there after all, at least from time to time. The whole thing was the postcard example of the American Southwest desert landscape. Classic eroded Navajo sandstone against a slightly cloudy sky created a scenery like from the old Wild West. I've not been able to find any specific information on the geological origin of those formations. Looking closely at them, you can clearly distinguish at least 3 layers, clearly different both in structure and color. I found the edges of the suddenly breaking plateau very interesting, looking like columns supporting it. The site is within Fish Lake National Forest, on the Fremont River side, near Capitol Reef National Park. At the top of this plateau runs Velvet Ridge, a relatively popular, moderately difficult trail for ATVs and off-road bikes. After a relatively cloudy day while driving along the scenic Bayway 12, also known as Utah's All-American Road, through Capitol Reef Park, the sun suddenly broke through the clouds and a completely unexpected sunset bathed the area in the golden color. The red rocks burst into flames, and for that brief moment we could feel as if we suddenly found ourselves on another planet. Compared to Bryce or Zion, which are like closed miniature fantasy worlds, Capitol Reef gives us a sense of what the Earth might have looked like before life appeared on it, when there was nothing but sky and rocks. The play of colors and curacaras on the vastness of broad, sweeping vistas of a torture-twisted, seemingly endless landscape or of limitless sky and desert rock took our breaths away. Despite the fact that we still had a long way to go, it was impossible not to stop here and wait till the end of this fantastic spectacle.